Okay, part 2 of the vlog accompanying the blog from informscotland.uk. Data for 9th of November 2021. Sorry, I've got a problem with my phone memory, which means that I can't do long videos for some reason. And it's such a big job to organise it, and I've got to go out. So I'm just tagging this video on to the last one. So graph 10, sorry, I was just saying we're seeing an awful lot messier a picture now than we were before. And basically, I think this means that something is breaking down. This is not, although we're seeing higher percentage positives, I don't think it's quite as simple as we're seeing lots and lots of positivity, because some days we're seeing much more than others. Now, it's possible. We've never had a very good explanation for what goes on in the labs and why we see this variability day to day. But it is possible that they test different groups on different days. So let's say on a Tuesday, they're reporting back tests from healthcare workers. Now, if that's the case, then it would be really handy to know that, because it would tell us which group is got the highest prevalence of infection. But we don't have that, so we just don't know. But it is notable that last week, so if you go and look at this graph on your own device, it might be easier to see, but last week, the green dot, that's week 44, the green dot was at about 7, and the red dot was approaching 14, that's percent. So the red dot's Tuesday and the green dot's Thursday. That is absolutely nonsense. So it's not the only, either there's a problem in the labs, or we have certain sections of our society where there's a high prevalence of infection. And you would think that would be relevant, because you would want to maybe take extra measures in that high prevalence population and maybe have fewer measures in the low prevalence population. It's not necessarily the case that it should always be our goal to reduce infections everywhere, because we know that natural immunity beats vaccine immunity. There's no question about that in the data now. YouTube won't like that, but it's true. And so having vaccinated people and reduced their severity of illness, apparently, it's not quite clear to anybody, I think, why it is that we're trying to prevent an infection at any cost. And I think people in the population are now becoming very accepting of the fact that they are going to get infected unless they are naturally immune. Now, this graph 11 is starting to look very small and difficult to read, but it's just to show you like the history of the prevalence of testing. So the blue spikes, I know you really can't see that. I didn't realise it appears that unclear on the blog, so I'll change it. But the blue spikes are community lab tests. Now you can see that we had this absolutely absurd surge in community testing there, but NHS tests, which are the red spikes, have remained fairly reproducible and steady. Community tests are coming down, and that's good news. We need them to come down. But in graph 12, we've seen that, throughout this, so in graph 12, we've got tests conducted and positives reported in red. So the tests conducted are the green, the turquoise is a turquoise trace. Now, what has happened in the past is that there have been little surges in tests conducted at the same time as positives reported have peaked. Now, that it's a chicken and egg situation. The more people are sick, the more people present for tests, so the more tests they'll do. But the more tests they do, the more positives will come back, because we know that false positives are a thing, and so people will test positive falsely. But what's happened in the past is that the red line has always come back down. Like, even in the last wave, the wave before this one, or 2 waves before this one, because I'm calling this the 6th wave, but it dipped below the level of the bottom of the lines indicating the tests conducted. But you can see that's not really happening now. So test positives are remaining stubbornly high even as the number of tests come down, which means there's more prevalence of infection. Now, we have a highly vaccinated population now, and, well, Prime Minister is saying that the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission, but I have been in touch with some MSPs this week and they are saying that it does prevent transmission, but it doesn't prevent transmission because we've got all these people vaccinated now and we've still got lots of transmission. It's quite a simple calculation. Graph 13 sort of shows the same thing. The blue trace is percentage positive of new tests and the red is community lab tests done. So even as community lab tests have come down, that red line recently has been lower, although higher than it was in previous waves. But anyway, we're at a permanently elevated level of number of community tests being done now. But look at how the positive percentage is remaining stubbornly high. So here, you know, in the autumn last year, we saw a surge and then it came down, and then we saw a really big surge after the vaccine was rolled out and it came back down, and then the same thing here, but in the summer wave this year. But in this autumn wave now, we've got no reduction in positive percentage. So is this like a never-ending epidemic we're in now? I'm not sure. I don't know. And then the last two graphs are just vaccinations, and what you can see is that there have been a lot fewer, many fewer vaccines delivered recently. The yellow trace in that one is first doses and the green trace is second doses. We've had some boosters going on, but I haven't got data on that yet. This orange line up here is the population of Scotland. So you can see that we're kind of grinding to a halt on vaccines. Blue spikes here are first doses, red is second doses, and you can see that they're almost away to nothing. We had a negative number of vaccines, first doses delivered recently, so there must have been a reporting error, which they have corrected. And that's the story. So I was in touch, as I've said, with some MSPs who are insisting that the vaccine works. And of course we know that the vaccine does work and nobody dares question that. But I would just like to, once again, in case anybody's watching this who could do with hearing it, when a vaccine works, what you see is a reduction in disease for the vaccine that you're vaccinating against. But what I'm saying is, at a population level, we're not seeing any advantage in hospitalizations or in deaths. Now, you could say, well, you know, we're not living with so many restrictions, but I don't think that's really true, because in January last year, we were locked down hard and we had more COVID hospitalizations than we'd had at any point during 2020. And I just, you know, I was getting a bit of, somebody was saying to me, well, but it's deaths per positive test are down. But then if the testing's a bit dodgy, then that will happen, and we're doing a lot more testing. So I would expect fewer deaths per positive test, because there's only so many people who are ever going to die of anything. Lots of love to you. I'm sailing close to the wind here. Stay tuned, stay sane, stay strong. And remember, I do love you.